Hambini fans, and welcome to one of those good old-fashioned roasts. In today's episode, we have the ultimate, impossibly ultimate, shilsters going. We have Bowman, bowel disease cycles, and a special PowerPoint to go with it. Right, first of all, we need to say a thank you to a viewer for donating their bike frame in. So that individual knows who he is. I won't name them, but he knows who he is, for sending it in so that this could actually take place. It has taken a while to get to this point because it required a bit of extra attention from other places. In any case, Bowman cycles, total utter fucking shite. And as we are in the Me Too movement and all that, hashtag be kind. This is me being kind. Imagine me being on a bad day. Right, by Hambini, aged 5. Is the pen working? I'm feeling slightly aggressive today. Pen is working. Right, enough of the childish antics. Let's get down to business. First of all, hook me up on Patreon. Patreon.com/Hambini. Right, background. If you are not familiar with Bowman Cycles, they are a brand based in the UK, were based in the UK. This is their Instacrap account. And unfortunately, I can't show you their website because it doesn't exist anymore. And I couldn't find anything else on it. They do also have a Facebook page. Wouldn't suggest you go on there just yet, but yeah, they do have that. Right, Bowman Bicycles. They were established in 2014. And Bowman is a trading name. The actual legal company name is Velo Limited. Place emphasis there on limited because they have limited liability. So if you have one of their frames and it's got a defect, you could be stuffed. I don't think you can actually have any recourse to them. And this is the guy behind them. He is called Neil Webb, and he is head of production, head of MD, all sorts of things. Let me show you his LinkedIn. So this is Neil Webb's LinkedIn. You can see what he used to do. He was basically started off at Madison, who are the distributor for Shimano in the UK, Evan Cycles, which are a big bike shop in the UK. So he was at Shimano or Madison for 2 years, Evans for 8 months, and then a technical writer for another 2 years. And then he founded Bowman in 2013. As I said, the company was registered in 2014. Yeah, this is Neil doing a wheelie, hoping that he doesn't come off and then costing the NHS some money from his healthcare bills. Showed you the LinkedIn. He was not available. I did ask him if he wanted to comment on this presentation via David Arthur. So I believe him and David Arthur are like best buddies, and he said he couldn't comment for legal reasons. First time I've heard of that, but there you go. Take from that what you will. Right, Velo Limited. So this is from Companies House. Now, if you're not familiar with the UK, all limited and PLC companies, so basically companies, have an entry in Companies House. This one, so BB Velo is a private limited company and they are liquidated, so basically they don't exist anymore. So why is he getting roasted? Right, firstly, Bowman, they have gone bust and they blame it on their suppliers. It should actually be, why are they getting roasted, not him in particular. Allegations of fraud. You just can't make this up. Some world-class wanketeering and QC with more holes than a sieve. Right, this is an article from Road CC. If you are unfortunate enough to read that copy and paste publication, they went and got a bit more out of Neil than I did. And Neil basically complained of supply problems, customer, and this is the fraudulent bit. There's been a few people that have stated in the forum that they were supplied with wheels that were supposed to be from a brand, let's call it brand A, and they were actually brand B with brand A stickers on it. Now, I've tried to go and verify that with brand A, and I didn't get a response. Now, given the number of people that are on there that have stated the wheels were fake, I'm inclined to believe them more than someone who stays silent and doesn't deny it. Okay? ETC, yeah, yawn. Now, this guy is an ex-journalist, and you know what I think of journalists? I have a soft spot for them. It's called a swamp in South Africa. Right, some fine examples of wanketeering. Starting your own bike company, Aluminium versus... Oh, God. This is just beautiful. It is just beautiful. Let me fire this up. So what we've got is, we've got this, which is the Bowman Cycles wheel.
Everyone should be riding. In the winter, my bump stays dry. In the summer, there's never a light that holds you back.
In the winter, my bum stays dry. What a line. Right. And then David J. Arthur, Aluminium versus Carbon. So he's got 23 minutes and 42 seconds of this chap again, Neil.
Is a mould, as opposed to the whole frame being one mould, or the rear end and the front end being a mould. So
something about that. The Bowman Palace, another review. Why buy carbon when aluminium is this good?
If you want to build it your own way. So lots of like. Let's dive into my review.
And then this.
Then we went through a couple of different iterations of tubing, because then we'd found the bottom bracket system we wanted to use, which allowed internal at the front and stuff.
Bottom bracket standard we wanted to use, which is BSA, been around since the 70s. And then, oh yeah, the usual shilsters. Right, Cycling Weekly's verdict. I'm going to read this out. Blending superb power transfer and speedy tendencies with an all-day comfort is no mean feat. Blah, 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 blah. The judiciously chosen standards. I'm not even a freaking native English speaker, and I don't think that's particularly good English. And robust aluminium frame served to make the Palace 3 easy to live with as well. Now, the comical one is, so they gave it 4.5 out of 5, gave it the 2021 Editor's Choice Award, against frame can collect water. Frame can collect water. Oh my word. Yes, the frame can collect water. Right. Let's carry on with this. Teardown time! So I did mention the frame was sent in by a viewer. It's a 6069 aluminium based frame. Carbon fibre 4. This is without doubt the most dangerous frame I've seen to date. And before we go into that, let me show you their little thing. Bowman Ride with Spirit, welded by hand in Taiwan, by Stevie Wonder. So the way I'm going to do this one is a bit different to normal. So we'll have a look at the outside of the frame first of all, because if you're going to go and buy a frame, you probably need to go and look at something before you go and do some destructive testing. Then we will have PowerPoint to ridicule the clown behind this some more. And then finally, we'll go and do some more destructive testing. Now, on the face of it, this is just any old aluminium frame. It is 6069 T6 Bowman Palace 3C, made by Neil Webb, bike designer and founder of Bowel Disease Cycles. Every good ride should make you smile. Indeed, what a fine statement that is. Now, Bowman have gone bust. They are have gone into liquidation, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. So anyway, aluminium frame, carbon fork. Well, it survived that test, but it might not survive much longer than that. And this is why it came in. So this is an aluminium, well, there's a dent in it. But now let's go around this frame, because it is frankly a joke. So this is the head tube, down tube and top tube. There's a lack of penetration in these welds. Now this weld does not look like it's penetrated in there. I'll show you some pictures of the inside when we do the PowerPoint, but there's no penetration. That weld looks like it's going to peel. Now we'll show you the inside of this. The bottom bearing of the headset look how thin that is compared to that. There's a magnitude difference in there. Also, down further below, these two bearing seats are not in a line, so that one's off. It's not concentric at all. This might be a bit difficult to see, but you can see the brace between this side and this side. It's completely on the piss. It's not even close to being horizontal. Further, the two dropouts at the back, they're not in line with each other. Now you might say, well, that's because of the ding, which I suppose you could say that. The other thing is, this is canted in. So is this one. I don't believe that has anything to do with the dropout. You can see weld defects all the way over that. Weld defects all the way. That has a pinhole there, blowhole there. It looks like a lack of penetration in there. So this is the rear brake mount. Again, this isn't even in line, so it's off to one side. And then the welding around the intersection between the seat tube, the two stays and the top tube is just crap. There's another blowhole in there. It looks like lack of penetration all the way around. Bottle holder bolts, so the ones I can see through the seat tube, they're just completely scabby. So we're going to chop this up and we'll have a look in a minute. So this is the fork, complete with its QC sticker. Don't know what that stands for. Who knows? Right, this isn't straight. It may not be obvious on the camera, but that has got a bend in it. So that surface there and that one there are not concentric, so the bearing seats are off. Right, what we've got here is some other pictures that people have sent in to me. This is another Bowman frame. Viewer sent this in. Might not be quite obvious what this one is all about, but if you look at the bottle holder bosses, you see that one's like square with the frame and that one isn't. It's quite a bit off. This is chainstay failure, and there's loads of these on the Bowman Facebook page and their Instagram page. It seems to be a recurring theme. I've got a fair idea what it's about, but anyway, so that's a fracture there. Again, a viewer sent this in, so thanks to them for sending that in. This is just a lack of care. Look at that. All the swarf that's still in there. It didn't ream a hole out properly. It only takes a couple of minutes, but you see all the metal that's got in there. Shards of metal. Not great. This is the frame that's here. So the BB, which isn't even particularly square, has got a reinforcing brace across the back, two chainstays, and it's completely on the piss. Ridiculous, absolutely awful. There's there's just weld defects all over it, just everywhere. So you've got like a some people call that blowhole, burn through there. The machining around the sort of relief for the seat post is just diabolical. It doesn't get much better here, which is the headset. This could put you, this would be alone would be enough to put you in hospital. I've zoomed in now. The thickness of metal around there is ridiculous. It's extremely thin, very, very thin. It's clearly been machined off center. You can see the chatter marks. It's not round, and there's angular misalignment between this side and this side, which is in the distance. It's just a joke. Angular and parallel misalignment. It's just unexcusable. If this chap who owned this frame had sort of been in an accident or been in a collision or something, I think you'd have fairly good grounds to take some legal action against Bowman for sending this out, because it's clearly not fit for purpose. Right, the weld defects all over this frame. There are loads of lack of penetration and loads of lack of fusion. The lack of fusion is, I took it to, to show some people who welding engineers, and they pointed to different defects, but the unanimous conclusion was it was just unacceptable. But yeah, you can see all of this just in that frame, and you can go through that at your leisure. Right, stress relief. Now this frame doesn't have, or doesn't appear to have, any stress relief. So when it's made, you've got certain features which become the datum. So the seat tube would probably be the datum, and the bottom bracket would probably be the other datum. So these points are datums. Now what happens is, in the case of the, let's say the seat stay, oops, I can't see the pointer. The seat stay comes in here and is welded. And then the chain stay is also welded, and you end up with this 3 triangle system that's welded. When it's welded, what tends to happen is it shrinks. So instead of it wanting to be there, I'm going to exaggerate this, but if we call that a datum point, it tries to shrink to there. So that is heavily exaggerated, but you get the idea. It tries to shrink. Because it can't shrink, you end up with stresses in here. Oh, well, technically the stresses are in here. Now, the stresses will usually find their way to a point so that it can be equilibriumized. And in that case, if you look at the number of chainstay failures, if we go back to here, the reinforcing point is there and it's failed immediately afterwards. So yeah, that's why it's failed. Now heat treatment, or sorry, stress relieving, that involves heating the material up and then cooling it in a controlled way. Then these stresses disappear. So then you are left with sort of no tension or compression that are trying to distort the frame. Most bike frame, well, a lot of bike frames are not stress relieved. Now, some of the tubing manufacturers will say, oh, well, you don't need to stress relieve it. Well, if you didn't need to stress relieve it, then why is it broken? Why is it broken so many times? So yeah, that's the counter argument. One of the primary manufacturers that do stress relieve is a Chinese company called, I think it's Walty. So I'm reliably informed that they do stress relieve, and that's on titanium as well. So it's a level up from this. But if you're under the impression that aluminium is the go-to material, the manufacture of aluminium needs to be carefully considered. Look at that. That is horrendous. This is the bottom bracket. This is where the 2 chainstays go in. There's no penetration at all in that weld. Look at the scabby bit over there. Absolutely a joke. You can see in there's no weld material at all. I'll take some pictures and then show you in PowerPoint. There's a freaking huge gap there. That's ridiculous. This is the rare brace that was on there. There's a total lack of penetration anywhere near there. There's a gap. It's like daylight through there. Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. This is the bottom bracket area of the bike. One of the most heavily loaded areas of the bike. I mean, it's shocking. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. That is the down tube. So we've had a cut through the down tube. Chain stays out of here. That works. There's the seat tube there. That is already a crack that started to develop in there because it's not been welded properly. There's just clear air in between there. Absolutely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. No penetration at all whatsoever. That's the seat tube. Again, you might not be able to see it, but looking in there, it's just a joke. Total joke. No penetration. Again, this might not be that easy to see, but there's basically a 2mm gap between where the bottom bracket goes and where the seat tube goes. It's not been very well cut. Weld prep's a joke. Just shocking. Look at that. That is totally ridiculous. So that's where the head tube meets the top tube and the down tube. There's no penetration in there. There looks to be the start of a crack. And that's just one massive weld defect on both surfaces. Just unbelievable. I cannot believe that someone's let that out of the door. It's just ridiculous, completely ridiculous. To top it off, the tubes look like they've been cut maybe 2 or 3 millimeters too short, and then the welder's gobbed it up with some gobbo, and that's why it's done that. Total lack of penetration. You can see in there's no heat marks through there. It's just beyond acceptable. Well, this must be bad because we've got round 2. So let's do round 2. I honestly don't know where to go with this because this is just a joke. Right, so chopped it up and you get the pictures here. This is the bottom bracket. It's not been faced. It's just shambolic, utterly shambolic. So you can see that it just flicks up there and then down. It's just jagged. Might not be able to see it that well on the camera, but it is there. This is the bottom bracket area. So there's a there's poor mitering there, and there's no penetration in the weld. Hasn't come through. Now some people, a couple of people suggested that this is, some people call it cauliflowering, is due to a lack of purge gas. Now some of my other colleagues said that if you forget that and then look over here, there's no penetration at all. So the likelihood of a crack developing there is quite high. But in either case, welds are coded. Welders become coded, and this would not pass any codes. You see again there, it almost looks like a crack. Please excuse my angle grindering. A lot of people have speculated I used a hacksaw, but I didn't use an angle grinder, and just getting in there is what caused the problem. Now, in case you're wondering what it should look like, this is a specialised aluminium frame. I'm not saying Specialized do a good job, but this is the kind of welding that you would normally see, and in the context of a bike frame, so it's gone through. The weld geometry might be slightly different, but you can see the characteristic feature is not cauliflowering and a uniform bead all the way along, whereas this is like a fillet weld gone wrong, basically. Again, this is the one I posted on Instagram, and loads of people commented. I guess more cauliflowering, lack of purge gas, whatever you want to call it, but look at that. That's diabolical, isn't it? Absolutely diabolical. I don't know what to say to it. Right. That is the head tube. So this is the top tube here, which I'll label T, and that's the down tube there, D. There's possibly a lack of fusion there. You'd really have to chop through there, and I just couldn't be bothered. But look at the outside of it. It's just shambolic. Here, there's nothing here. There's absolutely nothing. It just kind of stopped. Although over here, out of all of it, that probably looks the best. But yeah, there you go. I keep pressing the wrong button. Yeah, it's the same shot over there. And then this is a double chop through the bottom bracket area. I did mention that wasn't aligned, and in the grand scheme of things, that's probably mediocre compared to what we've seen today. But look at that. Unreal. So the chainstay, you can actually see it goes, looking very carefully, it goes like to there. So there's not much holding it in at that point. Okay, so there we go. So overall, I would suggest you don't buy a Bowman bike. They did try and sell a load of them second hand, but this has some wider consequences, especially the way that this thing was marketed. These frames were marketed. I suspect there's loads of frames out there that exhibit exactly the same problems. It's just way. There's there's one or two things that, you know, fail to make the QA/QC, this is a whole new league. An absolutely whole new league. If I was the guy running the company, I would be slightly concerned that if someone goes and crashes their bike and the chainstay rips off, if they do a bit more digging and then find some more not very good welds, they could be in a bit of bother. So there we go. Right, that brings us to the end of this presentation. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, remember to go and fuck yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.